All right, so today we are going to do a deep dive
Ooh, deep dives.
into Elder Renlund's talk,
Okay.
Do Justly, Love Mercy, and Walk Humbly with God.
I love this one.
You know, and I
Yeah.
think we all are kind of looking for that advice on
Totally.
how do we live a more fulfilling life? You know,
Yes.
how do we be more Christ-like?
And I love that he just starts right out
Mm.
and asks that question that I feel like we all ask ourselves sometimes. Am I doing enough?
Yeah.
You know, it's this constant
Yeah.
like back and forth of like, I know I need to be striving for good,
Right.
but will I ever measure up?
Exactly.
You know, he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either.
No, he really doesn't.
He goes right into those scriptures in Micah about offering up thousands of rams,
Yeah.
rivers of oil, even your firstborn child.
It's pretty intense imagery.
Intense, right.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to earn your way into
Yeah.
God's good graces.
It's not going to happen.
It's like trying to pay off $1 billion debt with pennies.
Yeah. It's impossible.
Impossible.
But there's also this, like, paradox.
Yes.
That relief.
The fact that we can't earn it is
so freeing.
freeing.
You know, it's like it shifts your focus from frantically trying to be good enough
Yeah.
to accepting
Yeah.
the gift of grace, you know?
So it's a gift.
It's a gift, not a reward.
Okay, so that takes a little bit of the pressure off.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that we just sit back and relax.
No.
He talks about 3 things.
Yeah.
Doing justly, walking humbly, loving mercy.
And those are action words.
They are.
Those are verbs, right?
Yes, they are.
So doing justly. And I love that he kind of like takes it
Yeah.
up a level from just like following rules.
Right.
It's about acting honorably towards God and others.
Yeah, and it's connected, right.
It's all connected.
The first and second great commandments.
It is, you know, love God and love your neighbor. They're tied together.
Yeah, it's all part of the same thing.
Absolutely. But, you know, one of the things that really kind of stuck with me was the idea of walking humbly with God.
Yeah.
And he talked about, you know, this shift from burnt offerings to a broken heart and a contrite spirit.
Yes.
So it's like
It's that inward change, right?
inward change.
Yeah.
It's not just the outward. It's not
Yeah.
just checking things off your list.
It's not about going through the motions. It's about really recognizing our limitations
Right.
and aligning ourselves
Yeah.
with God's will.
And it made me think about that story
Oh, yeah.
with Dr. Cohen and Dr. Jones.
Oh, I love this one.
You know, where Dr. Jones is complaining
Yes.
about having to treat this patient whose condition was, you know, she felt like it was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And Dr. Cohen's just like,
He leans in and whispers.
yeah, he just whispers.
Her needs are the same.
It's so powerful, that like quiet rebuke.
Right. Like, what a good example of what it means to love mercy.
Exactly.
It's not just about being grateful that we get it.
Yeah.
It's about actively being happy that other people get it too.
Even when we don't understand.
Right. Even when they make choices that we don't agree with.
You know, it makes me think about another story about extending grace, and that's the one about Hillel the Elder.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this one.
So he was a Jewish scholar,
Okay.
and, you know, somebody like challenged him to sum up the whole Torah while standing on one foot. You know, like how do you...
How do you do that?
Right. And he said,
Okay.
that which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor.
Oh, wow.
This is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. Go forth and study.
Wow.
Talk about getting to the heart of it.
Right, to the point.
Right.
So simple, but so profound.
And it's about that, like,
Yeah.
you know, doing justly, loving mercy.
It's all connected.
It's all intertwined.
It is.
And it's about not mistreating others.
Yeah. And, you know, especially in a world where it's so easy to judge and condemn,
Right.
this is such a powerful reminder.
Right. And that's where Christ's example comes in.
Absolutely.
Right. He was constantly
Yeah.
reaching out to the marginalized,
Yeah.
offering compassion without judgment.
Without judgment. Yeah.
Hey, you know,
He didn't condone their actions, but
Right.
he saw their potential for redemption.
And Elder Renlund points out, he says, self-righteousness still offends God today.
It still does.
You know, it's about building bridges, not walls.
Totally.
So how do we practically apply all this?
Right.
What does this do justly, love mercy, walk humbly actually look like?
In our everyday lives.
You know, because it can feel kind of overwhelming sometimes.
I know. I get that feeling too. It's like, where do you even start?
Right.
But let's break it down, okay?
Okay.
Doing justly.
Uh-huh.
That can be as simple as civility.
Okay.
You know, just treat everyone with respect, even when you disagree.
Okay.
Recognize that just because someone has a different opinion
Right.
or believes something different from you doesn't mean you can't be kind to them.
That makes sense.
Even just listening to someone
Uh-huh.
can be an act of doing justly.
Okay.
It's really about recognizing that inherent dignity in each person,
Okay,
no
so
matter what.
that's a good starting point.
Yeah,
But you mentioned that self-righteousness offends God.
it
But
does.
is there a danger in being too merciful?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You know, like even to those who might take advantage,
Yeah.
how do we find that balance?
That's a great question. And it really gets to the heart of what it means to love mercy authentically.
Yeah.
It's not about being a doormat
Right.
or condoning harmful behavior.
Right.
It's about recognizing the humanity of everyone,
Yeah.
even those who make mistakes,
Uh-huh.
but also holding to your own boundaries.
Right.
Sometimes the most merciful thing you can do
Yeah.
is offer tough love or to step away from a toxic situation.
Okay, so it's not just about being nice.
Yeah.
It's about being wise and discerning. Okay, and then what about walking humbly?
Oh, yeah.
How do we cultivate that connection?
With the divine.
With God, yeah.
Yeah.
What does that walking look like?
I think walking humbly is a conscious effort to stay connected to God
Okay.
through prayer, through scripture study,
Right.
through seeking his guidance in all things,
Okay.
and recognizing that we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and being open to learning from others,
Right.
even those that we might think are, less than.
Yeah.
It's also about approaching life with a spirit of gratitude,
Okay.
recognizing that everything we have is a gift
Yeah.
from God.
So approaching life with gratitude.
Yes.
But I also think a lot of us struggle with,
Yeah.
that feeling like I'm not doing enough.
Uh-huh.
How do we balance striving for progress
Yeah.
with this fear of like falling short?
That's such a common struggle.
Yeah.
And it's something that Elder Renlund addresses directly in his talk.
Mm-hmm.
He acknowledges that we're going to stumble, we're going to fall short, even after we've made covenants.
Right.
But God doesn't want us to be paralyzed
Right.
by guilt or by anxiety.
Right.
He wants us to experience the joy
Yeah.
that comes from drawing closer to him.
So there's this need for vigilance,
Yes.
but also self-compassion,
Absolutely.
knowing that we're human.
Yeah, we're going to make mistakes.
We're going to make mistakes.
But that's where grace comes in.
That's where grace comes in.
It's about remembering that God's love for us is unconditional,
Uh-huh.
that he's always there to help us up when we fall,
Right.
and that our worthiness isn't determined by our accomplishments,
Right.
but by our willingness to turn to him
Yeah.
with a humble heart.
So it's about the journey.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, and we're not alone.
We're never alone.
So we've unpacked these concepts, doing justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly.
Yeah,
But how do we know if we're on the right track?
that's a good question.
Like, how do we gauge our progress?
It's interesting, Elder Renlund kind of addresses that in his talk.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, when we're trying to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God,
Right.
we can have confidence
Okay.
that our lives are aligned with his will.
It's about direction.
It's about direction, not perfection.
Yeah, I like that.
He talks about all these incredible blessings that come
That's
from
exciting.
that alignment.
He talks about our souls being infused with the glory of God and with the light of everlasting life,
Right.
experiencing incomprehensible joy.
What's so powerful about that is
It's a lot.
it's like this vision of a transformed life,
Yeah.
a life overflowing with meaning.
Okay. But he also uses some pretty strong verbs.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Do justly, love mercy, walk humbly. It's
Right.
not just a passive set of beliefs.
No,
You've got to take action.
you got to put it into practice,
What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. You're spot on. It's not enough to just think about these principles.
Mm-hmm.
You have to live them.
Okay.
So to do justly, it's about those conscious choices we make every day,
Okay.
how we interact with other people.
So give me an example.
Even in small moments, it can be speaking up against injustice
Oh, okay.
when you see it, or advocating for fairness in your workplace,
Okay.
or even just being mindful of our impact
Okay.
on the environment.
So being intentional.
Yes, being intentional, not just going with the flow.
Okay. What about loving mercy?
Loving mercy.
What does that look like?
It really is about cultivating empathy and compassion,
Okay.
It's about those opportunities we have every day to serve others,
Okay.
to extend forgiveness
Yeah.
freely,
Yeah.
to lend a helping hand to those in need,
Okay.
It's about choosing love over judgment,
Even when it's hard.
even when it's hard,
Yeah.
and especially when someone's wronged us.
Okay.
Sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is
Yeah.
just listen without judgment,
Right.
offer a shoulder to cry on, or a word of encouragement.
Okay. So active listening.
Active listening.
Okay. And then how do we walk humbly with God?
I think walking humbly is about staying connected
Okay.
to God through constant communication.
Okay.
So making time for prayer, immersing ourselves in the scriptures, and seeking his guidance in all our decisions,
Okay.
big or small.
But it's a journey, right?
It is a journey.
There are going to be bumps in the road.
Absolutely.
There will be challenges, setbacks.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're just going to wonder if we're doing enough.
Right. Like, am I on the right track?
How do we deal with those feelings?
Elder Renlund reminds us that God doesn't want us to be paralyzed by fear or anxiety.
Okay.
He wants us to experience the joy and the peace
Okay.
that come from drawing closer to him.
So when those doubts come up,
Yeah, when those doubts creep in,
what do we do?
turn to him in prayer.
Okay.
Find comfort in the scriptures.
Oh.
Remember how he's blessed us in the past?
Okay.
It's about trusting in his love and his grace,
Even when we don't feel worthy.
especially when we don't feel worthy.
Okay. So it's striving for excellence.
Yes.
But also accepting our imperfections,
Absolutely.
knowing that it's God's grace that saves us.
It is our own work. It's about embracing the journey
Right.
with all of its ups and downs.
Yeah.
And trusting that if we're sincerely seeking God
Uh-huh.
and striving to live by his principles, we're on the right path.
So we've been talking about doing justly, loving mercy, walking humbly.
Those three beautiful principles.
What would you say are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think first and foremost, we have to remember that salvation is a gift
Okay.
from God, and it's available to all of us
Okay.
through the atonement of Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh.
We can never earn it on our own,
Right.
but we can receive it with open hearts
Yeah.
and strive to live in a way
Okay.
that shows our gratitude for that incredible gift.
So recognizing that we can't do it on our own.
We need his grace.
Yeah. What else?
Secondly, I think living a truly Christ-like life
Right.
involves actively cultivating these three things:
Right.
doing justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly.
Okay.
These aren't just abstract concepts.
Right.
They're action verbs.
Yeah.
It requires us to make choices every single day.
So we have to, put it into
We
action.
need to put our faith into action.
Just show, don't tell.
Exactly.
What's the final takeaway?
Lastly, and maybe most importantly,
Okay.
God doesn't expect perfection from us.
Okay.
He knows we're human.
We're going to make mistakes.
We're going to mess up.
Yeah.
But he wants us to approach this journey with hope and joy,
Okay.
trusting in his infinite mercy and grace.
He wants us to be happy.
He does.
Yeah.
He wants us to experience that peace and fulfillment
Okay.
that come from aligning our lives with his will.
It's about progress, not perfection. And it makes me think about that question that Elder Renlund asked. He's like, don't you love it?
Oh, yeah.
And I think it really is something to love.
It is.
Knowing that God loves us unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
That we can always be forgiven.
Always.
That he wants us to be better.
It's incredible.
It's a pretty amazing gift.
It is. It's a message of hope
Yeah.
and possibility, a reminder that even amidst life's challenges,
Yeah.
there's always a reason to rejoice.
I love that. Okay.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Elder Renlund's talk,
Okay.
we want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
How can these principles of doing justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly with God
Right.
transform your approach to a challenging relationship in your own life?
Ooh, that's good.
Something to really think about.
Yeah.
How can we embody these divine qualities
Yeah.
in our interactions with others?
That's powerful.
But as we do so,
Yeah.
we'll discover the transformative power of God's grace,
Yeah.
not just in our own lives,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but in the lives of those around us.
That's beautiful. That's a really good question to think about.
It is, isn't it?
It's easy to talk about all this stuff in theory,
Right.
but when it comes to our actual relationships,
Yeah. The real messy one.
the messy ones, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it gets hard.
It is. But that's where the real growth happens.
Right, but imagine if
Yeah.
we approached every relationship
Yeah.
with that commitment.
To those principles.
Yeah. To do justly, love mercy, walk humbly.
Who could change everything.
It would.
How we interact with our families,
Yeah.
our friends, colleagues,
Even strangers.
even strangers. Yeah.
Instead of getting defensive or building walls.
We could be building bridges.
I like that, building bridges.
Yeah, it's about choosing to see the good in others.
Extending grace.
Extending grace, even when it's hard.
Because everybody is worthy.
Everyone has worth.
No matter what they've done.
Exactly. And it makes me think back to what you said earlier. about how we're not called to, like, condone bad behavior,
Right.
but to recognize the humanity in everyone.
Yeah, it's finding that balance.
It is. It's about that balance between holding on to our boundaries
Right.
and still offering compassion.
But sometimes the most merciful thing
Yeah.
is to walk away.
It can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to protect yourself.
And you know, it's interesting when Elder Renlund talks about our souls being infused with the glory of God and the light of everlasting life.
It's like we become conduits of that light.
We can share it.
We can share it.
Shine it out into the world.
Exactly. And that light can heal.
Yeah.
It can inspire hope.
And that's what it means to be a disciple.
To be a true disciple of Christ, it's not just about us.
No.
It's about impacting the world.
It's about making a difference.
It is.
So we just encourage everyone to, really think about these principles.
Let them sink in.
Yeah, don't just let them wash over you.
Let them change you.
Yeah, choose to do justly.
Love mercy.
Walk humbly with God.
And watch what happens.
Watch how it changes your relationships.
Yeah, starting with your own heart.
You're not alone in this.
Never alone.
God is with you every step of the way.
He is, offering his grace and guidance.
And his love.
And his love.
So until next time,
Yeah.
keep diving deep